parcel be able to have extensions added to it and in order to serve the facilities on the parcel when served and is requested by the lot owner for development. Excuse me. And the last comments we have are staff comments. The first couple just deal with notes that are on the plat. Due to this being a heavy industrial I2 zoned subdivision, the note for no land dedicated and fees in lieu of shall be required for subdivisions where their intended use is for commercial or industrial purposes. This can come off the plat due to the zone that is out there. The second note I would request that is adjusted is just the correct spelling of floodplain on there, so everybody knows which plain we're talking about. The next two comments are in deal with the legend, truing up the line type, color, symbol, just asking a request that those match up a bit better with what's in the legend and what goes on the map inside the mapped portion, just so everybody can read things a little bit easier and tell there's a lot going on this preliminary plat. And I know once we move to final plat, this goes away. It just helps with review. The other thing we noticed in the legend was that the property corners still say Ranch View 1. If we can get this changed to the Lagoon subdivision, that would be another. These are all pretty minor, just little corrections here and there. One of the big major comments I had was, again, going back to all utilities need to feed each building separately. Each lot needs to stand on their own. One question I had for JFC was, how is the hydrant being fed between the two northernmost buildings on lot 1? Does this need to stay? I was a little bit confusing with how it was drawn on the utility plan. The next item I have is all existing easements need to show a book and page with type of easement and the owner. Both existing and proposed easements must be shown if located outside the lot it's servicing. Going back, and one specific example is the gas line that's crossing the Green River Livestock Company on the east side of the property. This needs to have, there's either an easement that is out there already because it is an existing line. If not, this needs to be taken care of with a new easement and shown on the plat. We can get all that put together. Just keep things cleaned up and all put in one place, especially for the subdivision, will be very useful. And the last thing is, please note all distance bearings that are needed to draw out the Lagoon Court Road and Lot 3. If curves aren't tangent, please also include enough information such as radius, delta, length, chord bearing, and chord distance. Pretty self-explanatory. I'm definitely going to be rewording everything exactly, but the staff recommends the approval of the preliminary plat with the following conditions being met for final plat. Eric, do all these need to be read word for word?
No.
Okay. Basically, any of the comments that we talked about prior, those will all be conditions for the preliminary plat to be approved. Madam Chair, do you or your board have any questions for me?
So does lot 3 need a fire? Does it need a hydrant, or do we not know yet?
It needs a hydrant. We just are unclear if it's being fed or not. The utility plan is just a little hard to read.
Okay.
If that line is being removed or not. John Endens with JFC is here. He might be able to answer that.
And then we'll just have to feed it off the main. Then it will run down there.
So that line will be, the water line will be staying. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. if you want to, John, come on up and is there anything you'd like to add or share with us that help clarify possibly?
No, I think Megan did an excellent job of presenting it and, on paper, it looks pretty straightforward, but it's not.
I'm sure
It's a
not.
really
No,
pretty
that's a
simple
lot.
thing, but the goal here is to get each of those lots, just like Megan stated, so that they can stand alone with their individual water, sewer, and anything running across lot is protected with an easement so that they can be maintained and worked on. So, yeah, I know that be nice to see those buildings get occupied, and I know there's interest in them as this is moving forward. They're getting more offers for the others, so it'll be nice to see that whole facility get occupied
Absolutely.
and put it back to use instead of just being a ghost town. But I'd sure entertain any questions you folks
Anybody
have.
else have any questions for him?
This is pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate your consideration and
Mhm. Well, at this time, we'll go ahead and we'll open it up for public comment. My favorite thing, everybody knows. So at this point, is there anybody in the audience that is for the preliminary plot application? Is there anybody against it? Anybody would like to make in the public a general comment for or against? Hearing none, we'll close the public comment and we'll open it back up to the board to see if you guys have any other questions.
Are they planning on doing this all this year then, John?
yes,
So it'll be paved and everything this year? Okay,
In this time frame. Okay, perfect.
weather permitting.
Permitting.
And then in this economy, just the way things are, material availability.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just not a lot.
Okay, if there's no other questions, would anybody like to make a motion?
Make the motion, we accept the subdivision proposal as put out by JFC and the owner.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any last questions, comments before we take a final vote?
Would that be with staff recommendation?
Yeah,
Yes,
is that
with
with
staff
staff recommendation?
recommendation, sorry.
Thank you, Rob.
Yep.
Thank you. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Perfect. So you guys will move forward and the county commissioner meeting is on 9/21 at 8:30. So,
Madam Chair, actually,
oh, well,
this is,
not need,
does not need to go to the
No, I think
commissioners, the P and Z. Yep.
yep. Awesome.
So he's approved to go to final plat is what happened today. So
Awesome. Thank you, Megan, very much today. Does anybody, do you, Megan or Eric, have anything else for us? Did you want to do a board training since we're still early? It is up to you.
it's up to you guys if you want. It's an orientation that Mark hasn't been through and Casey hasn't been through.
That's fine.
I'm not sure Kelly has either. So I know I've done some, but I'm not sure. It's pretty quick.
Yeah.
I bet
let's
we're
do
done
it.
in 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
let's do it. We're
Let me
here.
just get it set up. So we're
Absolutely.
good to go here on YouTube.
John, I know material is just, it's a wonder right now.
It's crazy. Just everything.
I even looked at doing that, cast in place. Just that, because it's just, Amcor is just so far out.
Certain valves, pumps. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you. Have a good one. So if I put a sign up, do I have to go in front of P and Z
What kind of sign?
for my storage units?
I think it depends on how big, isn't
don't
it?
know, that's
If
what I-
it's, isn't there a size requirement or minimum?
Size requirement, most likely you will.
Yeah, if you're putting a big. Mhm.
So if it's over a certain size, I have to go in front of the P and Z?
I think you just have to do an application.
Yeah, it's
Oh.
just over the counter.
I got-
It's extremely complicated, but it should just be an over the counter permit.
Trudy, I have to get I got to get a sign put up for the storage unit, so it's not like waiting till the last minute.
Well, there's just the application online. I can't remember what the fee is for it.
Yeah, it's,
I'll just stop downstairs and just get one then from you guys when we're done.
As long as you don't have a bunch of flashing lights and stuff.
No,
Wow.
yeah.
nice big electric sign.
Right.
Little Vegas.
Yeah. Still on track for November for that?
No, they're supposed to be here at the end of this month, starting to erect them.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Supposed to be done by now. Huh?
Lit a fire.
I was upset when, so a week before the buildings are supposed to show up, I call them up. I says, we still on for next week for the buildings? They're dead air.
And you're like,
And
haha.
I go, he says, it's gonna be delayed. And I go, how long? He says, November. And I lost it. So I cooled down. The next day I call him back. He says, we'll have them to you in September. And I'm thinking, well, the beginning of September, and all you said September. But they'll be built by November, they'll be done.
Wow.
Because the paving's done, the concrete's done, the fence is done. I have a little bit more asphalt to put in, the asphalt will
Wow.
be done.
It was almost like it got interrupted. Is this?
Okay, Madam Chair, I'm ready.
All right.
Okay, so this is like the original commissioner orientation, and the last one I went through was kind of a history of zoning. This is actually, it outlines the land use department organization, which a lot of you are familiar with, so we'll just zip through some of that stuff. But if there's any questions about conflicts of interest and things like that, we'll kind of get into that a little bit, and then John can feel free to jump in anytime. So the organization, as you know, it's Planning and Zoning Commission is an advisory board, and they answer to they prepare recommendations to go to the Board of County Commissioners, with the exception of preliminary plats, which we approved today. And then you've got the Land Use Department organization, which now we have GIS downstairs in our department. We have economic development in our department. We have code enforcement, subdivision review, building permit review, and just and nuisance also. That's another important thing that we also deal with is nuisances and code enforcement. And we also do fire inspections. Sweetwater County land use plans, we have the zoning resolution itself, and then we have subdivision regulations that we're currently working on to amend. And then we also have that growth management plan that we're planning on eventually eliminating and incorporating it into the zoning and subdivision. Part of the issue there is it makes it difficult to enforce when you have 3 different books you have to go to. And we'd like to just incorporate that into one book or 2 books so that we can actually, we don't miss things in reviews, and it has happened. So again, your advisory board, we prepare comprehensive plans, zone changes, reviews of regulatory changes that we just did with the solar, and review of zoning and subdivision applications. So where you get your power is from the state statute. It's Title 18 is where it is, and it actually gives you the power to prepare recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners. And it also states in that statute that gives you the power to amend the comprehensive plan. As you'll see there, our comprehensive plan is from 2002. Probably needs some updating. It's actually a really good comprehensive plan because it's very general. So it makes it easy to interpret, and then it makes it easy to apply to different situations. One thing, a comprehensive plan or a master plan that you see in the city, it's important to note, it's not a regulatory document. And there was a lot of buzz around the legislator in this last session that you can't regulate off a comprehensive plan. And I know that sounds, but I don't know if there were instances in the state. It wasn't with us, but sounded like there might have been some issues in central Wyoming where planning departments were utilizing master plans to deny applications and such. It's more of a guidance document, just to keep that in mind. And that's what we use it for, as a guidance. Growth management plan is a regulatory document, so we can regulate with that. And then you got the zoning resolution and the subdivision. 5 members, chairman, vice chairman. 3 of those members have to live in the unincorporated areas of Sweetwater County. We've got Mr. Richards, Lyon, Angela, all live in the county, Casey in the city, and same with Rob. So that we can have all 5, but you have to have a minimum of 3 that actually live in the county. Maximum of 2 terms. And then obviously, you know that there's officer elections every year. And this is just the makeup. Obviously, this has not been updated, but the public lands planner position has been eliminated. And so Mr. Cott retired last year, and we are not refilling that position. So it is now just the GIS planner and code enforcement and then administrative assistant. And then we also have economic development that's downstairs. Attendance, we need 3 members. 3 missed meetings. And we've had this happen before. Those are unexcused absences, but if we have excessive tardiness or absenteeism, you actually can, P&Z can recommend to the Board of County Commissioners to have that member removed. And we've had that happen where a member just wasn't showing up, wasn't calling. And so, and then the Board of County Commissioners can refill that position. You need 3 votes to carry a motion. That's why when we get down, when 2 are not here, you need a majority. You need all 3 members to vote in favor of it. If it's 2-1, it fails. A little bit different than the Board of County Commissioner makeup. That's due to the bylaws. And then abstaining from a conflict of interest. Appreciate just if there's ever any questions. We do our guidance by as American Planning Association is where we guide our ethics for planning and zoning commission members. We can go over that at another time. Kind of explains conflict of interest a little bit better. I'm held to a higher standard being an AICP. You'll see that after my name on documents. That I actually, that's why I have to be very careful if there's ever a conflict for me in situations. I've had, if a family member was proposing a subdivision, one of my family members, probably not a great idea for me to be presenting the thing because there's obviously a conflict of interest there. There is instances just by the bylaws. So if we have 3 members here and there is a conflict of interest, obviously we need those 3 members to vote. So you can announce that conflict of interest and still vote. So it's just getting out there and stating the fact that, okay, I have a conflict of interest. This is the reason why, but I will be staying in the vote. And that way it's out there. So just so you know, you can, by the bylaws, actually vote with a conflict of interest when it's down to just 3 members that are here.
What happens if there's 5? Let's say Mark, Rob, and myself are all in, let's say we're doing a subdivision together. It's Mark's land. He's doing the engineering and I'm doing the work. Then what happens?
We're gonna hurt you. That's what's gonna happen.
Good question. Thank goodness that's never come up, but it can, I guess, right? Yeah, cross that bridge when we get to it. No, I'm just kidding. That's a good question. I don't know if I have an answer for it. Like I said, I mean,
Hypothetical.
yeah, it is hypothetical, but let's say it did happen, you would announce that conflict and vote on the matter. I don't know if they're
the greatest conflict. I mean, as a landowner, I'd probably have the greatest conflict versus the design or even the construction. So you could probably get around it to a point.
yeah.
Because I've asked Eric on a number, because there's things that came up like today's, for instance, I bid on that job.
Yeah.
Get it. So I just want to make sure everything's above board. If anything I've been associated with, I bring it to your attention or you guys'
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah, that's the best thing. Policy is just bring it to our attention. I can discuss it with John. We look over the bylaws and then just, and those probably need some updating too. It's been a long time since we updated those, but yeah, just any questions on them. Just the biggest thing is transparency, and the public knows that what's going on. AICP ethics are, and these APA, American Planning Association ethics that they have out there. There's so many scenarios they go over, and there's just never a clear cut answer all the time. But the biggest thing to me is transparency. I get asked to go to lunch a lot. I have developers that call me. Due to my AICP, I cannot go to lunch. And it's not necessarily, we don't discuss the project or anything like that. Conflict of interest comes down to the appearance of conflict of interest also. So if I'm out eating lunch at a restaurant and I'm out there and people see me eating lunch with a developer, and then I come to a planning and zoning meeting and I'm recommending approval of it, it's the greatest subdivision ever, there's that appearance of conflict.
Yeah.
And then, as you know, the public starts to lose trust in government when they feel that there's no good transparency. So very important. And it's very important to bring that thing forth. You know, it comes down to the Constitution, proper due process, 14th Amendment. So very important. Yeah, go ahead, John.
So, yeah, I mean, I think Eric's saying it well in terms of, the most important part is the transparency component. As you are an advisory board, so the commission can still proceed and the circumstances can be explained in terms of, if there was a scenario, because there could be a situation where a conflict would be sufficient enough to say, okay, this.
So okay,
Uh-huh,
there's
just
a
recuse
definite
yourself.
conflict of interest. Do I recuse myself and leave the room?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, like I said, even if there's a scenario where, let's say there's three that had a conflict. That's still information that could be presented to the board, the commissioners. You could explain, here's why this did not pass. Three are required for it to have an affirmative recommendation. In this scenario, there were two that recommended that it pass. Three conflicted out. That information would then be presented. You have transparency still.
Okay.
There's still the ability for things that the train doesn't stop. The important part again is transparency. As much advance notice as you're able to give, Eric, then that discussion can be had. I think there's just like I think the bylaws are understanding that, the nature of the board is advisory. It doesn't necessarily, and the board can make an independent decision. So I think there's a lot of different layers of protection in there. And the main thing is not to force a square peg into a round hole when you can still accomplish, advising, bringing you guys' expertise to the situation to bear. And I think that's the value that you want to get out of the equation. So.
Any other questions on that? It's an important topic. Okay. Nope.
So can
Go
you
ahead.
take us to lunch?
That's a great question.
Wow.
The attorney says
Well,
yes.
Sorry, no, I can't. Yeah, it's just the nature of the job, unfortunately. Yeah. And I understand why people do, it's more of a working lunch type thing. And in the private sector, you can do stuff like that. In government, those who work in government understand what I'm talking about. You have those eyes on you and transparency and things. And yeah. Procedures of public hearings. Order of P and Z meeting, that it's in our bylaws. So that's, if you're ever wondering why we have that layout, it's actually in the bylaws. So we've been through that 100 times. This is the order of the meetings. Procedures for public hearings. Our chairman always calls to order staff and applicant reports, and they open and close for public comment, P and Z consideration, and the action. One important thing, and I'm glad we hold to this, is that we are always, according to Robert's Rules of Order, always everything goes through the chairman. When we get into cross debates with P and Z members or cross debates with the public in between public members, everything according to Robert's Rules of Order has to go through the chairman. And so to ask questions or anything like that should be going through the chairman. Keeps order, keeps things order. Procedures. Yeah, we know that. Again, speaking right through the chairman. You can, as a chairman, may limit, Madam Chair, you can limit each speaker to a specific time frame. Usually, if you ever have a question about that, if we feel there's going to be very controversial, we can discuss, you can always call, we can talk about that before, or I'll just call you. When we know there's going to be a lot of people commenting on a particular item, you can limit them to a time frame. And then obviously may permit questions to be addressed to the individual speaking, avoid public debate, getting into a debate with someone. Standards of public conduct shall be maintained, and then you close the public hearing after all testimony. And P and Z consideration opens P and Z of application. Again, you see this as we're going through every hearing. Chairman encourages and moderates P and Z discussion. Sometimes it's always being a chairman is difficult, and I did it with Commissioner Lyon there with the rec board. It's not easy being a chairman because you're trying to stay that neutral position and encourage debate at the same time. You know, where you may have your public opinion about something, but really what you're trying to do is engage the other planning and zoning members. Board consideration applications, plans, public testimony, staff report, P and Z discussion, county attorney's opinion in special cases. As you know, Mr. De Leon is here to always answer legal questions, public site visits. I do encourage when I get this comes up a lot, and we've had issues in the past with it, but there will be times that someone will reach out to you, an applicant, come by my site, check it out. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, of driving by a site and looking at it before a P and Z hearing. If you feel you want to drive by and look at it, but when you engage in ex parte communications with someone, it can taint the view of that P and Z member without the rest of the planning and zoning members there. If you feel we need to do and we did a site visit, we did on a cell tower. We went out there. Then let's do that. Let's schedule a public site visit. We can do that. We've done many of those in the past. Or we can actually recess while we're hearing a public hearing, and we can recess to the site and come back. So there's different options there to do, but I do discourage ex parte going individually with the applicant or whomever, or it's just nothing wrong with taking a phone call and listening to someone and encouraging them to come to the planning and zoning meeting, of course. But I do feel that it's important to limit those discussions as much as you can and keep it in an environment where all the planning and zoning commission members are together. Any questions on that?
So if you get invited to come and look at a site, because that does happen, either get a hold of Angela and say, you know, just whoever the person is, say, okay,
We can do that.
we'll all come out.
Yeah.
Not just by yourself.
Right.
Okay.
Perfect. Exactly. And we can schedule that before whatever we need to do. Yep, not a problem. It's almost considered a special meeting is what it's called. Go ahead.
So since it is kind of like a special meeting, does it have to be advertised and all that?
It can, there's a definite shorter time frame on that, but you can recess. That's why sometimes it's easier to recess when you're here at the hearing, and you can actually set that date and time, or you can just say, you know what, at lunch, we're going to go out there right now. In that instance, you don't need to re-advertise. That's out in the public. You're you're just basically recessing to the side and then coming back and making a decision.
The public would be invited. over.
Exactly. So now if we want to do what you're saying, we can do that too. It's be considered a special meeting. Yeah, we just advertise it and say we're doing a site visit, and I think it's 48 hours. I have to look at the bylaws. I'm not sure, but it's definitely less restrictive than the 30-day 30 days that we're bound by statute. Okay. But yeah, just encourage that. We're more than welcome. We've done meetings in Farson where we feel the public, it's a long ways for them to travel, although now we have Zoom technology, it makes it easier for them. But we've held meetings up there. We've gone to Farson because we felt it was something, they were doing a campground there, at the ice cream store behind there, to the side there. And we had a lot of public comment. We filled the room. You hold meetings in Farson, you'll fill the room for sure. But they're engaged public community there. They like to be involved, know what's going on. So yeah, we can always choose to do that. We do not have to be here every single time. We just have to advertise 30 days prior where we're going to be at. So because we've held meetings actually in the Human Service Building over in Rock Springs. So good questions. Robert's Rules of Order. We've had training on that, so that's what we follow. So this is the ethical code of conduct, respect the public process, P&Z conflict interest. We've already talked about that. Economic gain versus party to hearing, appearance of a conflict. We talked about that. Leaving the room. We've talked about that. And don't bias yourself prior to the hearing. Limit discussion outside of a public hearing. Personal or private interest. A commission member shall be deemed to have a personal or private interest in a matter before the commission if the member's spouse or minor child receive or incur a direct financial gain or loss relating to a matter before the commission, when the disposition of the matter brought before the commission will have a bearing on such gain or loss. So we're talking about economic gain there. Again, this is stating what a personal or private interest is. And if you do have one and there's 3 members, just as John was saying, we come out, we state it in the public, and that way we've put it out there that this is the reason why we feel there's a conflict. This is the private interest. Staff reports, travel reimbursement. We used to actually, so if there's training and things like that, sad to say this, I know we put this in here, but they have eliminated the planning and zoning travel budget. They've eliminated my travel budget. So not much really to say there, because my training budget is practically nothing. So I think we can just move through this until we get better times. And
I'm still waiting for my first check.
that's right?
Yeah.
Keep waiting, Casey. We might be waiting a long time, sir. But just so you know, if we did have a travel budget and you're driving your own vehicle, we can reimburse mileage, things like that, reimburse training. So maybe there'll be some opportunities we can bring someone here to do a little bit of training and things like that. But for right now, like I said, things are limited. So we've already gone through the land use plans, and that's all I have, Madam Chair. I'm glad we were able to at least talk about a little bit of the conflict of interest and, have a good discussion about that. So that's all I have, Madam Chair. And I'll be moving to the other chair here.
Perfect. Does anybody have anything?
I
else
got
they-
one question for
Perf-
you.
Yes.
Can we get copies of our bylaws?
No.
Yes.
I have to say, Angela, what you do a good job. I'm just new to this, and I'm glad you're sitting there and not me.
Well, you're new, and so you're going to have time. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, you're going to get your turn.
Yeah, you'll be doing it before you know it.
I just don't know when to
Yes.
shut up, though. That's my biggest problem.
No, it's all good. So, all right, guys. Well, I'm glad we at least got some training.
I have
Yeah.
a Question. So like commissioners, they can't meet outside of this building if there's like 3 or 4 of them at like a party or whatever. Do we follow under that same rule since we're appointed and not elected?
Go ahead, John.
So, I'm gonna, your premise, is not fully accurate. Okay, so, commissioners can be at the same location. It happens all the time. So
Yeah.
if you go to Waco, it depends who's calling the meeting. It depends what the purpose of that meeting is. So if you guys are at a location, the farmer's market, and there's nothing, it depends what the purpose that you're there for, okay? And namely, if Angela, or it's called for P and Z purposes, for you guys to gather information in any fashion, discuss P and Z related material, that's when there's an issue. If it's something that's called by somebody else, then you're allowed to attend. You don't have to say, hey, I'm worried that there's going to be other P and Z members because this is P and Z related type of material. No, you can attend that if it's called by another entity. The main thing is if it's something that is initiated by you guys as a board, or Angela in particular.
Perception. Okay, Angela. We see Angela and all of us are at a bar, even you, Rob, even though you don't drink, but we're all at a bar. Perception is they see all five of us sitting there at the bar together.
Sure.
Then you have that, like Eric said before, it's all what
It is
public
perception.
perceives that is
Yeah.
happening.
I mean, yeah, it's good to be aware of those perceptions. But it's also good to, it's one of those things where, people will always say, they like to say, well, better safe. Well, it's also good to know what the actual rule is too, though.
Yeah.
So, yes, it is, I'll never say don't pay attention to appearances, because appearances are important.
Because me and Rob do a lot of work together.
Yeah.
Our companies work, in fact, they're working for me right now on 2 different projects. And
Right.
so, but if, okay, then I get Mark in and
Mhm.
Kelly and Angela in. Then
And
it's-
again, that's why it's so important to understand what the actual rule is,
Yeah.
because the value of you guys as a board is all the experience and expertise that you guys have. And so we would want to say, well, we don't want to have people with experience and expertise anymore because they might be working
Exactly.
together.
Yeah.
It's better to understand that if it's not P and Z related, then
Yeah.
there's no rule against it. You want to continue to be aware of appearances, and that, like I said, that's where sometimes lack of knowledge of the actual rule is and the focus on appearance creates a disservice to the community, to what's trying to be accomplished. So yeah, be aware of appearances, but if it's not specifically P and Z related, then there's not a specific preclusion there. So.
Don't talk business.
Exactly.
right.
Don't talk business. I agree.
Don't show up
That
at
is.
Square State after a council meeting with 5 council.
Yeah, exactly.
And
You
again,
need to be after a council meeting, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
and where appearances start to become, problematic is if it's something that, okay, this is the 5th time I've seen
Yeah.
everybody, all 5 of you guys at the same.
Yeah.
That's when it can start becoming problematic. Because, and it's the same thing. If you see the commissioners, every week, same location, same, then, like when there used to be 3, for example.
Yeah.
Now it's a little easier. And if there's 3, it's a little easier for that group of 3 to be at the same location. And then pretty soon it does start to, now you're just going to start scratching. You say, you never talk shop. You guys never talk shop. So that's when the ball starts rolling, and then it goes beyond appearances.
Yeah.
And you are actually potentially slipping into, you know, discussions about other, you know, talking shop and
And it's just human nature. People are gonna do that.
Oh, absolutely.
that's what I mean. So that's where the caution is appropriate. Because it's, you know, hard not to say, man, could you believe that situation we had today?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, so the rule isn't as complete as it is sometimes presented, but at the same time, the appearance component is does provide a certain litmus test to be aware of.
Well, and I think we all work or own or whatnot for various businesses. We know, I mean, we do, we'll be okay.
That's why Rinse and Rave's page is so popular.
Yeah.
I don't even go there.
No. All right, well, if we're done, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Everybody, have a good rest of your week.
You too. Thank you.
Yes, thank
you.
you.
Do we have anything next month or do we know yet?